I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee. It's really an honor. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's an honor to be included in the Hall of Fame. It really pleases me. I have to write things down, otherwise I forget them. I feel lucky to be here today. I walk my dog every day. I get up fairly early in the morning, 7 o'clock. I walk him half a mile or so. Saturday I walked my dog, came back, crossed in front of my house, going to come down the driveway, and I looked up at the house, and sitting on the ridge of the house are 7 birds, 1.5 to 2 feet high, black. I guess they were dark brown, redhead. They were 7 buzzards. And I thought, 7 buzzards.
Seven's lucky.
There's got to be something. They know something I don't know. Anyways, it hasn't happened yet, but it may on the way out. Just to review a little bit what's happened to me in the past. I went to UFA. I played at UFA. I played for Ed Zwicky. I can give a little story there. I had some teammates here. One of them was a quarterback for 3 years at UFA. I was a lineman and a center. And Pete Pace was the assistant to Zwicky. And first practice, they said, okay, all back centers go down there with Coach Pace. All the linemen stay up here with me. So I was a center. I went down to that end of the field with Coach Pace. I said to myself, I've been a lineman all these years. I'm going to be a fullback. He says, all the fullbacks get over here. So I went over there. There was another kid, by the way, by the name of Al Doris, who went on to West Point. He was a very capable person. Anyways, so I became a fullback. In the offense that Ed Zwicky put in, it was a long snap, and the snap came back to the fullback. Every time the ball was snapped, it came back to me. And poor John, the quarterback, they had him sitting up behind the tackle, and he was now a blocker. Anyways, that was I don't think I fumbled the ball all season. I wasn't any slashing runner, but I could pick up my 3 yards, 5 yards, and we did pretty well. After UFA, I went on to Colgate. Hal Lair was the head coach at Colgate. It was a good choice. I went there I visited Colgate. Ralph Antone, who I'm sure you all remember, was a great athlete and scholar. Ralph was a sharp guy. Anyways, he was a great athlete at Proctor High School. He was at Colgate a year ahead of me. I went up for the weekend. That's a normal thing to do. And I was showed around, and I stayed with Ralph, and that pretty much cemented my decision to go to Colgate. And it was a good decision. My sophomore year, a few of the highlights of my sophomore year, we played Syracuse with Jim Brown. I was a linebacker. We were very aware of Jim Brown. I can tell you, play number 1, offensive play number 1. We played a 5-2. I'm a linebacker. Jim Brown is sitting over here as a left halfback. We had a stunt. The end, the tackle came down. You read, motioned my way. I scraped off this tackle and end and came out to the end. The guard pulled. I took on the guard. I kept my shoulders square to the line of scrimmage. I did everything perfect. there I was. Here comes Jim Brown. Here's Bob Conklin. He's got him. And he just turned. You didn't realize what kind of speed this guy had. And he was 240 pounds. And he just turned on speed and he ran right around me. So he was a tremendous football player. I can add another story. My wife says, don't tell all these stories. But it's a pretty good story. Jim Brown was an All-American lacrosse player. Tremendous lacrosse player. Colgate, Syracuse, tremendous rivalry, a great rivalry. We had no school the week of the Syracuse game. There was no school up there. Wow. We just prepared for Syracuse. Our objective was to go up to Syracuse and paint the saltine wire purple, or maroon, excuse me, maroon. Syracuse's objective was to come down and ignite our bonfire. Now, they didn't have a bonfire on Whitnall Field. They'd have Niagara Mohawk come in, they'd drill 5 holes, 1 on each corner, 1 in the middle, and they'd erect a telephone pole. The freshmen had the job of building this fire. And the university would go out and buy an old barn. They'd buy several old barns and bring the wood in, and they'd build this fire. Tremendous thing. So that was the job of the freshmen. Anyways, just to give you an idea of what the rivalry was like. So it's spring, it's track. I was a discus thrower. Not bad. I was a pretty good discus thrower. I hadn't lost all that season. I don't have the physique for it, but my technique was pretty good. Jim Brown came back and ran in that meet, just that meet. He was a lacrosse player, but it was Colgate, and he was going to run. Well, let me tell you, Jim Brown won the 100. He won the 220. He won the javelin. He was a member of the sprint relay team, and he threw the discus. In the discus, you have 4 preliminary throws. You get 4 throws. After 4 throws, they take the 4 best, I can't remember, the 4 best to go into the finals. So Jim Brown was number 1 after the 4 preliminaries. I was number 2. So in the finals, you get 3 throws. I took 2 throws, 3 throws. Finally, I'm number 1. I beat Jim Brown's throw. But I was the second to last. Jim Brown was the last. Jim Brown went up there. Now, he's been running, he's been throwing, he's been doing all these things. He gets up there, he throws, he beats me by 3 inches. So, this is not Jim Brown night. He was a tremendous athlete. Another little story, we went out to Illinois, we played Illinois. At that time, they had the NCAA establish a new rule. They thought universities were spending too much money recruiting. So they came up with a rule of limited substitution. You could substitute for a person once in a quarter. Now, Colgate was 1,300 men. It wasn't big. We didn't have a lot of guys. I mean, we carried probably 50 guys in a football team, but out of that 50 guys, maybe there was 18, 20 quality players. So I was in there all the time. I played offense, I played defense. I was a linebacker, did a lot of running. We went out and played Illinois. First offensive play of the game. Ralph comes back to the huddle, and Illinois played what they call a white tackle 6. Sitting right over Ralph is Ray Nitschke. Ralph comes back to the blood, and he goes, it's going to be a long day. Anyways, at the end of half, it was 12-0 Illinois. We're not bad. We're in the ball game. We can move the ball some. We're not overwhelming. They're not overwhelming. By the end of the game, it ended up 40-0 Illinois. Wow. That was that limit. They had 3 teams. They'd run 5 minutes, out, new team would come in. They'd go 5 minutes out, another team would come in, and they were all fairly quality teams, not the best. Now to get back to Ray Nitschke, he was a fullback, and he wasn't very good. That's not very funny, I guess.
The Hall of Fame.
I graduated in '59. I stayed on at Colgate. I had an opportunity to get my master's degree. I had a job there. I became a preceptor, and I assisted in football. So I stayed there, got my master's degree. Then I went on from there, and I coached. My first really coaching assignment was at Notre Dame. There's some people here tonight. Great kids, wonderful experience. I learned a lot, and didn't make a lot of money, but it was a great experience. After Notre Dame, I went to UFA. Again, a great bunch of kids, wonderful kids. I still see some of them. The kids that I had, they've gone on and done all sorts of things, good things. Of course, I'm talking I. Well, it hasn't been I. It's been my mother, my father, my grandfather. I had a grandfather that was quite a baseball player. He was an immigrant from Switzerland. Played for the Buzzards. They used to have industrial teams. He played for the what's the beer? Utica club. West End Brewery. Played for the West End Brewery. Played for Buzzards. Stole 5 bases in 1 game.
Wow.
Anyway, so he was athletic. He always supported me. My kids, after I got going, have always been wonderful. They're here tonight.
Yes.
But most of all, I mean, they should make 2 plaques, or they should put 2 pictures on the plaque. They have to put my picture on the plaque, I guess I understand that. But for 60 years, there's been my best friend, my biggest helper, and the reason for my success. Thank you very much.